Hey class, okay, let's get back to looking at the rubric for assessing the paragraph response homework assignments. And keep in mind that the homework that was due last week, where I asked you to write answers to 10 different questions, this rubric doesn't line up perfectly with that, but right, I am, even in that assignment, looking for short paragraphs that have a cohesive structure where you answer the question and explain your reasoning a little bit. Um, I wasn't necessarily looking for a lot of textual references there, but I was hoping to see some. And um, with your answer to some of the questions, I was obviously looking to see that you comprehended some of the themes of the text. So even though the way I'm going through these paragraphs doesn't line up with that homework, I think it's relevant to that. Again, just to make that small point. Let's move on to the second student submission. The first one, remember, I talked about in the first video. This, for me, was on the fence between a B and an A. In the end, it earned an A minus. Okay. The second submission begins based upon the poem's vocabulary and decision of putting the phrase "he turned into a man" in the spot they did is sparked by the moment where they stated he rubbed down his matted hair and skin with oil within the previous line. A couple things about this opening sentence. It jumps right in, but without giving enough context. Again, I'd like to see a reference to the title of the poem and a little more context for the question that's being answered. This does go right at the question, and I like that the student points to specific passages. We don't see line numbers or page references. That's okay. That's something to add in future paragraphs. But we do have a couple of quotations, and that's a good thing. That's a two thumbs up there. I wasn't quite sure what the point was in that first sentence, other than to say this is the place in the text where we begin to see an answer to this question about humanity and what it means to become a human. The thought process that can be explained to support the notion that he turned into a man at this point is due to it being something that is only majorly found in humans. I think I see where the student is going, but this is a little bit of a stretch in terms of exactly what the point is here and how it's being expressed. That the clarity here of the sentence, it could use some editing for clarity. But the student is trying to kind of explain the reasoning for thinking, that here's one answer to the question, what makes us human? And the student is pointing to a thought process that can explain that. And the thought here is that what Enkidu does is something that only humans do. To explain, okay, so again, the effort to explain, I like that, but the explanation itself was not as clear as I'd hoped. To explain, animals eat and drink, something common among any animal, but the one thing that largely separates us is when we groom ourselves. Okay, so this is getting into details, but what's the significance of this? What is the significance of grooming, of rubbing down the hair with skin and with oil? What is the significance of this ritual, of this act? It distinguishes us from the other animals, but how? Okay, so I would have liked a bit more interpretation here. But again, I like the attention to detail. Aside from cats licking and maybe chimps picking at their fur, it's something we humans make to put a lot of effort into. I mean, all animals do groom themselves. Okay, so I mean, I think this is a little bit misleading, but there's something distinctive about human grooming, and I like that the student is trying to focus there, but the explanation about what makes it distinctive leaves a little bit to be desired. Let alone you'd never see a wild animal care for their appearance, not to mention using something like oil. So animals do care a lot about their appearances, but yeah, they don't use oil, they don't use products, okay? But again, the student is not explaining very well what's distinctive here about human grooming and how and what that says about the human. That level of care and self-consciousness about a person's being can only be attributed to higher thought. Okay, here is where we make a shift to kind of an explanation. So I like that sentence. We're pivoting to kind of it has to do with higher thought, right, and self-consciousness, right? The care and the attention given, sort of consciousness of self. That's a nice moment here in the paragraph. Being humans who take that spot for the planet. I'm not sure what that adds, but with this awareness about themselves, it also helps to explain the line of separation for humans compared to other species. So again, this idea of self-awareness. This is again a moment though where the student could have explained more what they mean by self-awareness and what that means in the context of the poem, give more specific references. This basis of thought about something like appearance can lead down a path to further thoughts such as desires, ambition, aspirations. Okay, again, it's interesting but not fully developed. So going to the rubric, you know, we have a nice structure to the paragraph and an answer to the question, but the explanation, the line of reasoning that's being developed is not that clear. We've moved away from citing specific passages from the text, and we've moved away from a kind of close reading. And it's not clear to me what the larger theme is here from this paragraph. What's the larger theme? This basis of thought about something like appearances can lead down a path. Okay, such ideas are further encouraged when you're raised within a civilized community that thrives upon the goals of others and helping one another. So now we're moving to the idea of what it means to be civilized, living in civilization. Okay, again, though, the explanation doesn't go very far. The same level of thinking on desires and such can also be the downfall of man that separates the gods from humans who fail to fall to such desires, such as adoration from others, for example. I like that last sentence, but again, it's a little unclear exactly what the main conclusion is here. And it doesn't tie back, like the last paragraph, it doesn't tie back as well as I'd like to where we started. But overall, this was a good paragraph, and this earned a B. Okay. The last one I'll look at, and then I'll let you look at the fourth one on your own. This is composed of 3 different paragraphs, which is fine. You don't have to think of it as one paragraph. Being 3 paragraphs doesn't make it better or worse. I'm just saying it's different. Feel free to break it down into multiple paragraphs if you're more comfortable with that. But then I'm looking for the cohesion between the paragraphs, that like the first paragraph flows into the second and the second flows into the third, and they tie together as one. Okay, so what makes a single paragraph cohesive is that it opens with one idea, kind of develops it, and closes kind of by looping back and reminding the reader where we started, but ending with something new, like a suggestion of kind of what the larger implication of this central claim is. So like an essay, okay, you can think of a paragraph as having a certain kind of structure. In the first 3 tablets of Gilgamesh, okay, good. This student referenced the text. That was nice. The reader may notice that throughout the passage, and I like the reference to the reader, okay, Enkidu becomes more human. In the beginning, Enkidu lived among the wild and was savage, like as a dreadful beast. He was seduced by Shamhat. This was Gilgamesh's doing as a method to almost tame him. Okay, there's an interpretive moment of sort of Gilgamesh's role here and his method, his purpose. It's a reading of what Gilgamesh is doing, taming Enkidu. Once Enkidu was seduced by Shamhat, okay, they did make love, and expected she was able to teach him to be more civilized. Okay, maybe more explanation of what that means, but I like the kind of the structure here. Enkidu enjoyed Shamhat's companionship, as mentioned in Tablet 1. Okay, here we have a quote. Nice. Okay, that's one of the things I'm looking for in your paragraphs, a quotation, a reference to a specific passage. Next time, maybe include the page number or the line number. A large part of Enkidu's transition to being human, nice beginning of a sentence, would be his lust of companionship. Okay, so this is the beginning of an answer to the question. Due to this lust, he was more vulnerable to take heed to her advice to him as she advised him on how they lived in Uruk. Enkidu becomes more emotional, which is a human-like quality. Okay, so we're beginning to have an answer to the question. All right, and then the next paragraph, I think, sort of begins to flesh out that answer and explain the reasoning for it a little more. Enkidu joins the people of Uruk for a gathering and is presented with food, human dishes. Enkidu began to stare in confusion. Another quote. This line represents his confusion. Okay, I would have liked to see the connection between, right, his emotions, his desire for companionship and this state of confusion that he's in. How does that all fit together? Shamhat guides him. Yes, Shamhat is his guide and tells him to eat and drink human foods, and he does in abundance. The passage states that he becomes fully human after this. Okay, yes, the student could have done more to explain that moment. Okay, what has happened? What has he become? So in the third paragraph kind of continues along this line of developing that interpretation. He's used to eating meals in the wild as an animal. Nice attention to details. Enkidu's next gathering, he meets Gilgamesh and they fight. Okay, maybe draw more connection between these two moments in the text. After Gilgamesh wins the fight, Enkidu respects him as a king and they become companions as envisioned in Gilgamesh's dream. I like the way the student is sort of tying together different moments in the text here. Enkidu's relationship with Gilgamesh and Shamhat, even Ninsun, when she adopts him as her own, builds Enkidu into a human. But again, how? Okay, it was sort of becoming a little bit too repetitive, not enough explanation of the sort of line of reasoning to support the answer to the question, which is about his desire for companionship and his kind of becoming a conscious of emotions, right? I think that seems to be what makes him human, but we don't have, again, sort of develop an explanation of that more carefully, I think. He learns how humans live and operate and is taught to mimic, nice, but most importantly, he has human-like feelings such as love, anger, and fear. Okay, here we return to this idea of the emotions that he's now capable of having. Enkidu demonstrates fear. Okay, an example, nice. Despite his fear, he joins Gilgamesh because that is his companion. He says it's better to die a hero. He's become both civilized and emotional. Okay, nice. Return to where we, to the main answer. His emotions affect most of his decisions, and that is how we know Enkidu is very human at this point. The last sentence is a bit vague. I would have liked a little more work at interpretation and developing the larger theme here. But overall, the student did all 5 things, and so this was an A. It was not a full A because, again, I think number 3, the line of reasoning in support of the answer could have been clearer and more developed. And a development of the larger theme here could have been more developed. But it had a cohesive structure. The student answered the question with an interpretation of the text. There were lots of nice citations, and a good understanding of the larger themes. But I think I could have seen more. I would have liked to see more of that and more explanation of the basic line of reasoning. Okay, so those are the first 3 submissions here. The 4th one you can look at yourself and think about the rubric. The 4th one also earned a B from okay, but why don't you look at it yourself and think about what the student could have done better, what the student did well. Okay, now these are just 4 examples. You can look at your own if it's not included here in the rubric and try to apply the rubric to your piece of writing. If you still have questions about it and why you earned the grade that you did, you can email me and we can set up a time to meet on Calendly, okay, which I strongly encourage. If you don't remember what that is, you can go to the homepage here, our homepage, click the course information. It's in the syllabus. You can find a link to Calendly. It's also down here, Calendly Virtual Office Hours, and that will take you here where you can sign up to a day and we can meet on Google Meet, right? That will automatically populate in your calendar. It will send you an invitation to a Google Meet meeting. I will get the same invitation and we can chat about your homework or about anything to do with the course. Okay, so that's all. Hope that was useful, and I will see you on Wednesday. Take care. Enjoy reading Homer's Odyssey, and I look forward to reading the introductions to your essay, which is due next week. Okay, that's all. Bye.